Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. On this episode, we are working on the wife's 2022 Ford Bronco Outer Banks with the 2.7 liter Ecoboost. We're going to show you why you should install an oil separator in your PCV system and why it's especially important on direct injection gasoline engines. So here we go. Let's get into it. Okay, so this is the wife's 2022 Outer Banks Bronco. It is now on 34-inch tires, Nitto Recon grapplers, which are brand new in this size and this load range, which is standard load if you don't want it to ride rougher so much, and it really doesn't. And it has a 2-inch spacer level lift from Zone Off-Road. It has the 2.7 liter V6 twin turbo Ecoboost, which you can only get with an automatic. But it's the wife's daily driver for the most part, so she wanted an automatic anyway. We're going to install this J&L oil separator can. As you can see, it is for Ecoboost engines, but it's not specifically for the Bronco. These retail for about 150 bucks new. It's made for F-150 Ecoboost, and I did not pay 150 bucks for it. Why? It popped up on Facebook Marketplace. So I figured the hoses and everything should work. It's the same engine. Worst comes to worst, I might have to figure out a different way to mount it or modify the mounting bracket. We can handle that. And it was $70, so it's a lot better than 150. I've been meaning to do this for almost a year now that we've had this Bronco. There's a big problem on direct injected engines. Well, let me back up. So the PCV, or the positive crankcase ventilation system, uses engine vacuum from your intake to draw vapors out of the crankcase. And those vapors are byproducts of combustion, oil vapor. So it's basically fuel vapors and oil vapors. Sucks it back into the intake so the engine can burn it, so you're not just pumping it out into the atmosphere. It is an emissions thing, but it's not a bad thing, because if you have no PCV system or a poor functioning PCV system, you can actually build up a lot of crankcase pressure and push seals out and cause a bunch of oil leaks and stuff like that. So it's a good way to have a happy engine and not oil leaking. But the downside is when it sucks in, the fuel vapors aren't that bad to go through there, but the oil vapors, when they hit like your hot intake ports and stuff like that, they carbon up. Now on a multi-port fuel injection engine, like what do we got here? Okay, like this old pushrod 5 liter here, you have fuel injectors here at the very base of the intake port. They spray fuel right at the back of the intake valve. So the intake port in the head and the valve get fuel sprayed on them constantly, which helps keep them clean, because fuel is a solvent also, and it will dissolve all that carbon and oil vapor stuff. Now, when you have direct injection, which most gasoline new engines are for emissions and efficiency reasons, where's the... No, you can't even see the fuel injectors. They're somewhere under the intake here, because this is a completely dry intake. There is no fuel going through it whatsoever. The fuel actually is injected right into the cylinder like a diesel. So there is no fuel to rinse off all of those deposits. So this has about 11,000 miles on it already, which I did not intend to. I mean, this was on my list, like, get one of those right first off and put it on there. I just, I got busy. I got a couple, just a couple things going on around here. So now we're getting to it. And what I'm going to try to do is, if I can, I'm going to try to snake my little borescope camera down the intake and try to see after, almost 11,000 miles if there's actually any crud in there already or not. But still important to do, and we will check it at the next oil change and see how full it is. So this is what you get in the kit. This isn't really a how-to install. Nice bracket that's made to mount on there. And I think to the upper intake, I did look up on the Bronco kits, it looks like they mount it somewhere like back here. We'll have to see. We'll just find a spot that seems decent and it would be easy to drain, because what it is is this guy. What do I got here? That's oil separator sticker. Oh, there's instructions. Anyway, so this takes the place of this hose here, where you're sucking oil vapors out of the intake, sucking oil vapors out of the crankcase, which is the internals of your engine, into the intake to be burned. These end up hooking in between there, and this guy is basically a collector canister. This guy is basically a container that unscrews off of there. This is all billet aluminum. And this will collect the oil and fuel vapors, and then basically every time you do your oil change, just unscrew that off, dump it out in the whatever you're putting your oil change stuff into, put it back on, and have a nice day. Keeps the crap out of your intake. And the way it does that is the air has to come in here, make a 90-degree turn, well, or 180, whatever. Make a 180-degree turn, go back up through this screen, and then out through this other hose. Air can do that just fine, but liquids cannot. So what happens is they fall out of air suspension and end up down in there. I'm a big believer in these. They haven't really become a big thing until as of late, as of the last 10, 15 years or so. The technology has been around like since the 70s or 80s. My old vehicles, like my Gen 1 Lightning that I had, I actually made one of these myself from an old AC dryer for a vehicle AC system. So they're a good thing to have. You can make them on your own. This is a nice new rig, so I found a good deal on a new one, so I got it. So here we go. Let's put it on here. Should be easier than easy. Okay, so I did confirm for sure it is this hose. These just have like little plastic push clips that you push in on the big blue button, and then they should just pull off. Where do you want? What do you want here? What kind are you? Anyway, you just pop those off. We're going to hook the hoses up to that, and where we mount it is going to be wherever it will fit and reach and wants to go. Yep, that's broken. Good thing we don't need it anymore. So anyway, you pull that little blue guy and it just pulls off. There's your old hose. Deleted. Yeah. Let's see. I need to borrow you for a minute. All right, anyway. So the right angly-ish one looks like it goes under here and onto the valve cover. Rocker cover, whatever you want to call it in your locality. So I don't know if you can see, but there is a little bit of oil vapor in there. We'll just go ahead and take that. We'll just keep that guy right there. And that guy just pushes on. This one, do you rotate? Can you do the thing? Kind of wants to be over here somewhere. Okay. I like what you did there. Ooh, that's nice and neat. We'll go with that. Okay. And installed. Bada bing, bada boom. Couple zip ties. Good to go. Okay, could have just totally boogered this on there, but the nice clean way to do it was to cut about this much out of this hose. And this is just like a push lock fitting, but it's on there pretty good. So what I did was I cut it at this end and I heated up the old one, pulled it off, heated up the new one kind of like you do with push lock hose, and pushed it onto the barb here. The other side that goes to the intake, I didn't shorten or anything at all. I ran it around right here, And all I did was rotate the plastic fitting at the end here to make it point down. And that makes for a pretty tidy installation. It's going to be right back here by the firewall. There is an empty bolt hole right there in the valve cover. So I need to find, like, looks like an M8 bolt for that. And I gave the bracket a little bit of a bend at the bottom so that when it's in there, this is straight up and down. Should have plenty of room because the bottom of the hood goes here. The only downside is it might be a little bit of a booger to get my hand in there and get it unscrewed at oil change time, but we'll see. I'll throw a bolt in there and we have a neat and tidy little installation. All right, there you go. Happy to do a little modification to save, what, 80 bucks? Yeah, for 80 bucks off, brand new unit. Easy enough. Okay, we'll go ahead and fire it up and just check for vacuum leaks. So, wow, almost 12,000 miles. She is putting the miles on this thing. Alright, so there you go. It's not exactly like a placebo effect type of thing, but it's also not something you're going to see or feel when you're driving it. What you will notice is that hopefully you don't have to pay somebody to walnut blast your intake ports and intake valves at like 70, 80, 100,000 miles, because that's what happens. If they get all gunked up, it does hurt performance, and you end up having to pay somebody to take your whole intake manifold off and clean, scrape, solvent, walnut shell blast those intake ports to clean them. So that guy should keep it clean. I'll let you guys know on the next oil change, which is in about 5,000 miles. I'll show you how much oil's in there. I tried to get you in there and have a look. Boy, this coupler does not mess around. That thing's pretty decent. Hold on, I'll shut this off. Snowflake. Anyway, I tried to get you in there and show you. I pulled the coupler off and I had the wife come turn it on and hold the throttle all the way open. Not running, just key on to open the throttle blades. And I shoved my bore scope camera in there. You can't get anywhere near the ports. There's a bunch of, it's like a maze in there anyway. But there was a little bit of oil residue on the inside of the intake. So hopefully the intake ports, I can't imagine they've gotten that dirty in 10,000 miles or 12,000 miles, whatever. So anyway, that's all for today. Easy project to save yourself some grief down the road. So 150 bucks now for the oil separator kit, or you know, like $1,000 later for somebody to pull the intake off and clean the intake ports out. There's your tip. Older stuff, still good to have one of those. Keeps the oil out of the intake, but not nearly as important as it is with this direct injection stuff. So anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good one. See you guys next time. Okay, it's our next oil change on the Bronco here. It has only been a few thousand miles, I think 2,000 or 3,000, not sure. I'll have to see what the mileage was at the beginning of the video and I'll put it in here. But anyway, changing the oil. So let's check on our oil separator and see how much stuff is in there. Not a lot, but there's some oil and some moisture in there. I don't know if you can see. Well, let's see if we can. I don't know if you can see the kind of lighter caramel brown stuff towards the top, but that's moisture. So we'll check it at the next oil change, and that should be about 7,500 miles. So I expect to see quite a bit more. So there wasn't nearly as much stuff in there as I thought there would be, but it's only been a couple thousand miles. So I can't show you. I tried. I'll stick some pictures in here of what direct injected engines look like when they don't have an oil separator and the kind of buildup they get. So anyway, yeah, there's a quick little project. Just finishing my oil change. So thanks.